What do you make of the Vegas Golden Knights? Like as a team, like this is very much Bruce Cassidy's team and married to structure. And watching the game yesterday, and the Dallas Stars are doing a terrific job suppressing shots. Vegas only gets 5 in the first, 5 in the second. After 40 minutes of play, they've only had 10 shots on net. It's remarkable what the Dallas Stars are doing, but they never panic and they stick with how they play. Your thoughts on Vegas after 2 games?
It's a really close series. I think I thought this going into the conference final, and I still do. I think they're the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. And we see now every game's gone to overtime, right? Even though the series are 2-0, so it's still close. But
yeah,
you're right. You talk about Vegas sticking to their game plan. Like, that's the one commonality I see in all 4 of these teams is they're out there playing chess every night and not deviating from what makes them successful. They're not panicking and trying to make things happen that aren't there. And there are other teams that have more talent that are guilty of that, and they're not in the playoffs right now. So we talk about copycat leagues. I think there's a lot of lessons to be taken from the 4 teams that are here right now. And, you look at Vegas, they win with the defensive structure they have, which is great. They've got a great blue line with depth and depth of forward, too. And, one point that some players who I work with on panels at the network and stuff like that have mentioned to me is that with this Vegas team, but even with really the 4 teams, there's no, everybody feels like they have an important job to do. It's not 3 lines and 4D. Everybody feels like they're a part of it and plays. And, I can't quantify the effect that would have on a team, but they seem to think it's important, and it makes sense intuitively. And I think you see that with Vegas, where in any given game, it could be any one of those players that steps up and makes a big play and makes something happen. So, I love the structure they play with. They've got the weapons offensively. They're getting the goaltending from Aiden Hill. And yeah, they don't cheat the game at all. So, I like them a lot.
Yeah. There's one of the things that we've seen in these playoffs is specifically these aren't teams that made the big move at trade deadline. But I want to focus on one move that many looked at and said, okay, that's a small little tweak, good for Vegas. This is going to be a player that helps them come playoff time. And it's turned out to be a huge move. And we've seen this before, that sometimes it's your minor deals that you make at deadline that end up having major effects. And you referenced Jack Eichel's line with Jonathan Marchessault, and the player that I want to mention here too, Ivan Barbashev has been excellent for the Vegas Golden Knights. Just like at every single level, Ivan Barbashev has been impressive. Every game he does something, at least something to let you know that he's there, whether it's scoring, whether it's hitting, whether it's whatever. Do you have a thought on Ivan Barbashev here with the Vegas Golden Knights? Because for my money, I mean, there were big names. Patrick Kane moved at deadline, Ryan O'Reilly. Ivan Barbashev has been one of the more impactful deals that any manager made.
Yep. And it's funny how it can end up being those type of guys sometimes. Like, I think about Arturi Lehkonen with Colorado last year,
yes.
the impact that he had,
yes.
right? Those guys can be so crucial. Barbashev is a good net front presence guy, and, wins, battles on the wall, those kind of things. The kind of things that are probably not glamorous, but are certainly important. And, we're watching, again, the way that some similarities in the way that these 4 teams play. There are no passengers, and whether it's Cousins or in Florida or Barbashev, and there's different guys. Howden even playing in the top 6 in Vegas, they don't look out of place, and it helps the depth of the team tremendously. So to be able to acquire somebody like that, put them with Marchessault and Eichel. That switch they made in the Winnipeg series, and it's looked really good ever since. That kind of stuff's huge, and it is interesting. I think historically, but certainly this season, it's not always and even often the big name players that are there at the end and that have ended up making the biggest impact. It's guys like I thought Lars Eller might have been one of those guys this year, and it didn't work out for the Avs, but Barbashev kind of fits that mold.
He really does. Loved him in St. Louis. Loved him as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights here. One more quick thought, then I want to shift to Dallas. Aiden Hill. It was at how many different times, and this started at the beginning of the season, have we all said, oh boy, I really worry about the Vegas Golden Knights goaltending. Like at various points of the entire season, we're saying, oh, I don't know that I like the goaltending. I don't know that I like the goaltending. This is, and he's not going to get like a real victory lap here, but I really think that he deserves one. This has been a great season for Sean Burke, Vegas Golden Knights goaltending coach here. And here's another example of some of the great work by Sean Burke. Aiden Hill has been flat out great. And right now, Mike, as you well know, he's out-dueling Jake Ottinger, as we all predicted. Right, Mike Kelly?
Oh, of course. And, go back to the last series as well. Like, I always say about Vegas, just in a macro sense, they're helped by the fact that whatever goalie they throw in there, and we know that could be 4 or 5 guys, of how the team defends. But that would be a disservice to Aiden Hill to suggest that that's why Vegas is humming along here. He's been great since he's come in. I didn't necessarily see it happening. I don't know that anybody did to him playing at the level that he's been playing at. But I think all you're hoping for out of someone like Aiden Hill at this point is like, give us a chance to win. He's done more than that. He's been really good. So especially in that Edmonton series when he comes in, like the first thing I go to is, when I'm looking at a goalie's performance is goals saved above expected. It really is one of the few statistics in hockey that you can use as a pretty effective catch-all. I don't subscribe to most of the others, but that one I do. And his numbers in the Edmonton series were outstanding. They've been fine in the Dallas series, but he's making one more save than the guy at the other end, who you mentioned is, thought of as one of the top goalies in the league. So it is a bit Vegas and how they play too, but he's been excellent.
He really has. I don't think this series is close to over. Like, I want to get to Florida and Carolina. I feel the same way there. These games have really been close. The Dallas Stars have game breakers, and the Dallas Stars have a goaltender in Jake Ottinger, who, as you mentioned, is getting outdueled right now by Aiden Hill, someone who can flat out steal games. Your thoughts on where Dallas fits in right now in this series? Because we look at it and it's like, well, it's 2-0, but it doesn't feel like, Vegas is running away and hiding with this thing.
I'm totally with you. I don't think this thing's over by a long shot. And I say that because, like, let's think about the fact there's 2.5 minutes left. Dallas had a lead. And Ryan Suter made one of the most curious decisions I remember seeing. Like, he got the puck there. And I think during the live shot of it, I'm watching the game on your network, there's a behind-the-net view of it. So he gets the puck, and I'm like, glassing out, forehand. Easy play, you're up by a goal. He goes backhand and starts to skate it a bit, and I'm thinking, whoa, this is not a good idea. And then it all unraveled from there. It was a horrendous play. So, and then, Vegas goes on and wins in overtime. So it's not like Dallas is out of these games like you're talking about. But the other thing, too, is there's been one significant matchup in terms of, matching lines. And I don't read a ton into that. Working with Bruce Boudreau, who I think he said he's coached 8 Game 7s, and they've all been at home. And he said a lesson that he learned was overcoaching can be a problem, and line matching, and that can be an issue. There's one matchup in this series that has been significant in terms of minutes, and that's the Karlsson line against the Hintz line. And from a process standpoint, the Karlsson line's had the advantage. The results in terms of goals have been even. But we know what Rupe Hintz and those guys can do when they get freed up a little bit. The thing with Karlsson, he can skate with Hintz, and not many players can. I think that's why he's been effective against them. Dallas will obviously be able to get away from that a little bit as they go home. And I think that could be a differentiator in what's been a very close series that would maybe tilt it enough in Dallas's favor. So I think that's significant and why I'm not counting them out. And then, the Hintz line's also been getting a lot of Martinez and Pietrangelo. So if they get away from all of that a little bit, maybe that's enough of separation for them to win a game or both in Dallas.